This morning you're hearing from an older newcomer's view as my husband and I moved from Connecticut and joined our church in November 2019, 3 years ago. Last month, Pastor Stephanie asked us to think about this question posed by Jesus. What are you looking for? I was looking for fellowship when we moved here. I was looking for fellowship and fun and service and purpose in a church which I would find hopefully to fill a giant hole in my heart because we had said goodbye to our church of 48 years in Connecticut. I was lost, but I found you. The joy in singing in a great choir and bringing communion to an elderly couple, starting a sewing ministry with friends, being moved to tears many times by inspiring sermons, growing in my faith by attending Bible studies, so much more. But this week we have something else to think about. We all received a letter that said, think about a time, reflect on a time, on a grace that appears when we least expect it, something we weren't looking for. I can speak to this in a couple ways. A year ago, I was speaking to our Sojourner sisters one day, speaking about a horrific family tragedy. And I was speaking in a voice like right now, I don't even remember it was my voice. And I had a dear friend hold my right hand and silently stepping away from her chair, a wonderful woman sat next to me and put her arm around me and held it there for about 10 or 15 minutes while I spoke. What grace in action that was. Another time, we had just moved here, and I, like many other women, had a cancer scare. And we knew no one. And as I closed my eyes to pray to God, I saw this face, a lovely woman physician I had just met in our church. And she was the face that came in front of me. And later on that Sunday, I met her in the back of our church, and I hugged her, and we had tears in our eyes. It was such a hug of comfort and support and encouragement and strength, grace in action. But last weekend, this is another reflection. We've moved to an apartment building in Pikesville, Maryland, halfway between our kids and the airport. Convenient. We found out that it's the epicenter of Judaism in the greater Baltimore area. We're known as the friendly Gentiles in apartment 604. Our neighbor, Rebecca, born in Israel, lives in apartment 601. And we recently found out, our whole apartment building was so sad to hear that her nephew in Israel was kidnapped and murdered last week. I mentioned this briefly at our hospitality meeting after church last week, and Karen Edel said, Jan, why don't you bring her a prayer shawl? And that's why we have our prayer shawls lined up on our railings today. So Harley and I brought our prayer shawl home, and we knocked on Rebecca's door. And when she opened the door, I've never seen anyone so absolutely bereft. She was crying inconsolably into a cloth handkerchief. She motioned us to come and sit at her table. She was so hard to understand. She has a strong accent, and she was crying constantly. But we made out some words. Oh God, why me? why this happened. Why can't it be me? Why? He was so young. It's not just that he died, it's how he died. I'm telling you, we've never seen such grief as that. So we had placed the prayer shawl on her table in front of her, and she placed her head on the prayer shawl, and she sobbed and sobbed into it. And then, because I had my hand around her, just like my friend had done for me a year ago, she reached over and she touched my cross. And she went like this: God bless you, and God bless your church. This past Thursday morning, Rebecca showed up at our door and left a lovely donation to our church. And this note, and this card. And it reads in part, "Dear all my brothers and sisters, please accept this thank you for your thoughtfulness. May our Lord shower his kindly blessings upon you. Thank you from all my heart. Love, Rebecca." So we think about ways that the image of God can shine through our lives in a prayer shawl, a hug or a hand to hold, a bottle of water for a homeless person, a box of cereal, a can of Spam, just simple acts of caring. And our letter from church read at the end, "In our fellowship and in our service, we will be grace in action to each other and to our community." Church, let it be so.